I didn't think much of the rules when I first saw them. That was probably my first mistake. They were written on a yellow sheet of legal paper, folded once, and left in the center of the kitchen table under a chipped coffee mug. The kind of thing you might leave for a renter if the plumbing was strange or the heater needed a trick to start. I almost laughed when I read them. I don't laugh at them anymore. My name is Aaron Ward. I'm 31 years old, and at the time this happened, I was taking whatever work I could get. I did transcription jobs online. Court audio sometimes. Medical notes if the recording was clear enough. Podcasts. Old interviews. Anything that paid by the minute. It was not good money, but it was work I could do alone. That mattered to me then. My father had died the previous fall, and I had spent most of that winter in my apartment with the blinds half shut, telling people I was busy when I wasn't. I had stopped going out unless I needed groceries. I stopped answering calls unless I knew exactly who it was and why they were calling. I wasn't falling apart in a dramatic way. I was just getting quieter. By March, I was behind on rent. That was how I ended up looking for cheap places where I could stay for a month and finish a big transcription contract without distractions. A company had hired me to clean up a batch of old Park Service recordings. Oral histories, dispatch calls, ranger interviews, incident reports. The audio was bad. A lot of tape hiss. A lot of wind. A lot of men mumbling away from the microphone. But the deadline was flexible, and the pay was better than usual. I needed quiet, and I needed cheap. The cabin listing said, remote cabin near North Briar National Park. Off-season discount. No cell service. Generator power. Wood stove. Suitable for writers, photographers, hikers, or anyone needing solitude. The photos looked plain. Brown walls. Green metal roof. Small porch. Kitchen with yellow counters. A black wood stove in the corner. Snow in the trees. It was exactly the kind of place that would have seemed peaceful to me before. The owner's name was Warren Bell. He sounded old on the phone. Not weak. Just slow. He had a dry voice and a habit of pausing before answering, like every question had to be weighed first. You know there's no cell service out there, he said. I saw that. Internet either. That's fine. I work offline mostly. You got a four-wheel drive? No. Just a Subaru. That'll do if you don't get stupid with it. I remember that clearly because it was the first odd thing he said. He told me the road was plowed twice a week until the old ranger station, but not past that. The cabin was half a mile beyond the station on a service road that used to lead to the Iron Gate mine before the park closed it. He said the mine had been abandoned for decades and was fenced off. Don't go near it, he said. I'm not planning to. That's what people say before they go near it. I thought he was just a blunt old mountain guy. I'd met enough of them growing up in Idaho. They all had warnings. Some were useful. Some were just ways of reminding you that you were not from there. Warren offered me a lower rate if I agreed to do two small things. First, keep the cabin heated enough so the pipes didn't freeze. Second, make one radio check each night with the ranger station repeater. He said the cabin radio was part of an old emergency setup, and keeping it active helped him know the line still worked. I asked why he didn't just remove it. He said, because every time somebody removes something up there, something else quits working. Again, I thought that was just mountain talk. I paid for 4 weeks. I arrived on a Tuesday afternoon with 2 duffel bags, a box of food, my laptop, 2 backup batteries, and a stack of printed audio logs. The road into North Briar was empty except for one snowplow going the other way and a pickup parked at a turnout with no one inside. The trees were tall and dark, the kind of pines that make a road feel narrower than it is. The park entrance booth was closed for the season. A laminated sign said limited winter services. No overnight parking past mile marker 18. No mine access. Report damaged gates. I passed the old ranger station around 4. It was a low stone building with boarded windows and a radio antenna on the roof. There was a flagpole out front with no flag. Beyond it, the road became rougher, with banks of dirty snow pushed to both sides. The cabin sat at the end of a short gravel spur. It looked smaller than it had in the photos. There was a porch with 2 old chairs, a woodpile under a blue tarp, and a metal bear box beside the steps. The forest rose close behind it. Across the road, maybe 70 yards away, there was an old roadside diner with a broken sign and dark windows. That surprised me. It hadn't been in the listing. The sign was shaped like an arrow and still had faded red letters on it. Briar Grill. Half the letters were gone, so from the cabin porch it looked like it just said RIGRI. The place had clearly been closed for years. The front windows were dusty. The door was boarded from inside. Snow had drifted up around the entrance. Warren was waiting in his truck. He was taller than I expected, with a white beard, a tan canvas coat, and one cloudy eye. He shook my hand without smiling. "You, Aaron?" "That's me." He looked past me at my car, then at the tree line. "You bring enough food?" "For a while." "Good. Weather turns, don't drive out unless you have to." He showed me the generator shed, the breaker box, the wood stove, the water shutoff, and the radio. The radio sat on a small desk in the corner of the kitchen. It was an old gray base unit with a coiled microphone and a row of channels labeled in peeling tape. Only one channel was marked in fresh black marker. Cabin/station. Warren turned the knob and static filled the room. "At 9 every night," he said. "Key the mic and say, Cabin 3, routine check. That's all." "Who answers?" "Most nights, nobody." "Then why do it?" He looked at me with his good eye. "So we know what answered when something does." I gave a small laugh because I thought he was joking. He did not laugh back. After that, he showed me a black tablet mounted beside the desk. It was connected by wire to a little receiver box. 4 grainy camera feeds showed in a grid. Porch. Drive. Mine gate. Back slope. The mine gate camera showed a chain-link fence between 2 rock walls. A yellow warning sign hung crooked on it. Danger. Abandoned mine. Keep out. The camera feed was in black and white even though it was still daylight. "These record?" I asked. "Motion snapshots. Not video. Updates every 3 minutes if something trips them." "Animals mostly?" "Mostly," he said. I didn't like the way he said that either. Before he left, Warren put a ring of keys on the kitchen table beside the mug. "One for the door, one for the shed, one for the bear box. Small brass one is for the stove drawer." "Stove drawer?" He pointed to a narrow drawer built into the base under the wood stove. I had not noticed it before. It had a little brass lock. "What's in it?" "Paper." "What kind of paper?" "The kind you don't need unless you need it." I waited for him to explain. He didn't. Instead, he tapped the yellow sheet under the mug. "Read that before dark." I asked if there was anything else I should know. Warren stood there a moment, looking around the cabin like he was making sure nothing had changed since the last time. Then he said, "People come up here thinking quiet means empty. It doesn't." That was the last normal thing he said to me. After he left, I put away my groceries, started a fire, and made coffee. The cabin was simple, but not bad. The kitchen light hummed. The refrigerator ticked and shuddered every few minutes. The walls were knotty pine, darkened by age and smoke. The bedroom was barely big enough for a double bed and a dresser. The bathroom had a clawfoot tub and a sink with separate hot and cold taps. Everything smelled like dust, old ash, and cold wood. I told myself I had made a good decision. No neighbors. No traffic. No phone buzzing. No excuses. Just work. Around 5:30, as the light started fading behind the trees, I finally picked up the yellow paper. The handwriting was blocky and careful. At the top, Warren had written, Cabin 3 rules. Read twice. Follow exactly. Do not improvise. Below that were 7 rules. 1. Keep the porch light on from sundown until sunrise. If the bulb goes out after dark, put the red lantern in the front window. Do not step outside to replace the bulb. 2. The Mine Road gate stays chained. If you hear chain dragging after dark, check the gate camera or the kitchen window only. Do not go to the gate. 3. Do not answer the radio if the caller uses your full name. Write the time in the log, turn the volume down, and wait 10 minutes. 4. If someone knocks from under the floorboards, do not speak. Count 7 knocks. If there are more than 7, leave the room and shut the door until it stops. 5. If the trail camera shows you standing outside, stay inside. Do not look through the porch window. Keep a lamp on until the next camera update shows the porch empty. 6. If the Briar Grill sign lights up, do not go across the road. Do not let anyone inside who says they came from the diner. 7. If black water runs from any tap, lock the mine map in the stove drawer. Do not read any names on it until morning. I read them once. Then I read them again. I remember standing in that small kitchen with the paper in my hand, listening to the refrigerator tick, feeling the warmth from the stove on my legs, and thinking Warren might be the kind of man who enjoyed scaring renters. The rules were too specific to be random, but too ridiculous to take seriously. I thought maybe they were old local stories. Maybe he had written them for tourists who wanted a spooky cabin experience. Maybe some previous renter had wandered out drunk at night and gotten hurt, and this was Warren's strange way of preventing another lawsuit. That made sense. At least, it made enough sense. I set the paper back under the mug. Then, because I am not completely stupid, I turned on the porch light. The first night was quiet. Not silent. Quiet. There is a difference. The cabin had all the sounds old buildings make after dark. Wood popping as the stove heated. Wind pressing at the seams. Snow sliding off branches. Pipes knocking once in a while. The generator made a steady low thump from the shed, not loud, but always there if I listened for it. I worked at the kitchen table until 9. The audio file I was transcribing was an interview with a former ranger named Lowell Pierce, recorded in 1984. He was talking about winter closures, missing hikers, and the old mine roads. His voice was thin and soft, with tape hiss around every word. At 9 exactly, I turned on the radio. Static came through. I pressed the microphone button. Cabin 3, routine check. I let go. Nothing answered. I waited about 30 seconds, shrugged, and wrote in the logbook the way Warren had shown me. 9 p.m. Cabin 3 routine check. No response. The logbook was old. Not antique old. Just used. The first half had been filled by other people in different handwriting. Most entries were boring. Snow. No issue. Wind. Generator reset. Porch bulb replaced. Station check, no answer. But now and then there were entries that made me pause. 12:11 a.m. Chain heard. Gate closed. 2:17 a.m. Clock stopped. Stayed in bedroom. 1:03 a.m. Diner sign on. No crossing. There were no explanations. Just notes. I told myself it was part of the same joke. I told myself that a lot over the next few days. At 11:40 that first night, I heard a chair scrape on the porch. It was not loud. Just a slow wooden drag, like someone had pulled one of the porch chairs a few inches across the boards. I froze with my hands over the laptop keyboard. The porch light shone through the curtains in a steady yellow stripe. I waited. The sound did not repeat. After maybe a minute, I got up and checked the camera tablet. The porch feed showed both chairs in place. At least I thought they were in place. I hadn't paid enough attention before. The drive camera showed my Subaru with snow on the roof. The mine gate camera showed the fence. The back slope showed trees. Nothing moved. I almost opened the door to look. Then I remembered Rule 1, even though it didn't really apply. The porch light was still on. Nothing had gone out. There was no reason I couldn't step outside. But I didn't. I went back to the table and kept working. For the rest of the night, every small sound felt like it came from the porch. The next morning, I found the left chair facing the door. I stood in the open doorway with my coffee cooling in my hand, looking at it. The chair had been facing the road when I arrived. I was sure of that now because I remembered setting my duffel beside it. The snow on the porch was undisturbed. No footprints. No animal tracks. Just the chair, turned toward the cabin, like someone had sat in it to watch the door. I told myself the wind had moved it. That explanation wasn't very good, but it was the only one I wanted. The first few days settled into a routine. I got up around 7. Made coffee. Checked the generator. Brought in wood. Worked from 8 until noon. Ate something simple. Worked again until dinner. At 9, I made the radio check. Most nights, no one answered. Once, a ranger did answer. A woman's voice came through weak and broken. Cabin 3, copy. Station clear. That was it. It made me feel better for a while. Proof that the radio connected to somewhere real. On the third day, Warren came by in the afternoon with a bag of salt, 2 jugs of water, and a new porch bulb. He didn't come inside. He stood at the bottom of the steps and looked past me into the cabin. You settling? Yeah. It's good. Radio working? I got someone last night. Woman? I think so. He nodded once. That's dispatch out of Ashford. Comes through when the ridge repeater behaves. I almost asked him about the rules then. I had planned to make a joke out of it. Something casual. Something like, how many renters have you scared off with that list? But when I looked at him, I changed my mind. Instead, I asked about the diner. Briar Grill, Warren said. Closed before I bought the place. Why is it still there? Park doesn't own it. County doesn't want it. Family disappeared into paperwork. Looks creepy at night. It is creepy at night. He said it flat, without humor. I smiled anyway, because I didn't know what else to do. After Warren left, I walked across the road to look at the diner. It was daytime, so it didn't feel as wrong. The windows were filmed with dust from the inside. The door had a chain wrapped through the handle. Old menus were still taped to the glass, bleached almost white. Through a clean spot where my sleeve brushed the window, I could see booths with cracked red seats, a counter with round stools, and a pie case with nothing inside. On the floor near the counter, there were old paper tickets scattered like dead leaves. I tried the door. Locked. I don't know why I tried it. Curiosity, I guess. That is usually the honest answer. As I turned to leave, something tapped inside the diner. Once. Not loud. Just one clean tap on the glass, right beside my head. I stepped back so fast I nearly slipped on the ice. There was nothing behind the window. No bird. No fallen branch. No person. I went back to the cabin and did not mention it to Warren. That night, at 12:06, the Briar Grill sign lit up. I had been working late. The file was difficult. Two men talking over each other in a ranger office sometime in the 70s, arguing about whether a shaft entrance had been sealed properly. I kept rewinding the same 10 seconds, trying to understand a name. Then red light pulsed through the kitchen curtains. At first I thought it was my car. Maybe the alarm. Maybe the hazard lights. I got up and pulled the curtain aside. Across the road, the diner sign glowed red. Not bright. Not steady. It flickered, weak and sick-looking, like old neon trying to wake up after years of being dead. Briar Grill. All the letters were lit now. Even the ones that were missing. I stood there with my hand on the curtain. The road between the cabin and diner was dark. Snow blew across it in thin lines. Behind the diner windows, I saw a dim yellow light, just enough to show the booths and counter. Someone moved inside. A shadow crossed behind the glass. Slowly. Like a person walking from the kitchen to the front. Rule 6 came back to me before I moved. If the Briar Grill sign lights up, do not go across the road. Do not let anyone inside who says they came from the diner. I let the curtain fall. I stood in the kitchen with my heart beating hard, listening. The generator thumped. The stove ticked. The radio hissed softly, though I was sure I had turned it off. Then someone knocked on the cabin door. 3 polite knocks. Not frantic. Not threatening. Just the kind of knock you use when you don't want to scare anyone. I did not answer. Another knock. Then a man's voice said, "Hello? Sorry. I saw the light." He sounded cold. Tired. Normal. I stayed where I was. "My car slid off by the diner," he said. "Can I use your phone?" There was no phone. Warren had told me that. No landline. No service. I almost said so. The words were in my throat. Then the rule repeated in my mind. Do not let anyone inside who says they came from the diner. He hadn't said he came from the diner exactly. He said by the diner. That distinction felt stupid, and I hated myself for thinking about it. "Hello?" he called. I backed up toward the radio desk. The door had a small square window with a curtain over it. I could see only the porch light outside, bright around the edges. No face. "I can call the ranger station on the radio," I said finally. My voice sounded thin. A pause. Then the man said, "No, don't do that." I stopped moving. "Why not?" Another pause. When he spoke again, his voice was closer to the door. "Because they already know." The porch light buzzed. I had never noticed it buzzing before. Then something slid under the door. A small white rectangle. I waited until I heard footsteps going down the porch steps. They were too slow. That is what I remember most. Each step had a long space after it, like whoever was leaving had to remember how walking worked. I did not look through the window. I did not open the door. I waited 10 minutes, then 20. When I finally picked up the rectangle, it was a diner order ticket. The paper was old and soft, but the writing was fresh. Table 3. 1 black coffee. 2 eggs. Toast burned dark. Name, Aaron Ward. Time, 12:06 a.m. I put the ticket on the kitchen table and stared at it for a long time. Then I folded it once and put it in the logbook. I don't know why. Maybe I wanted proof. Maybe I wanted something to show Warren. Maybe I just didn't want it lying loose in the cabin. At 9 the next morning, I walked outside and checked the snow. There were footprints on the porch. They came up the steps, stopped at the door, then went back down. But they did not continue across the road. At the bottom of the porch steps, they ended. Not faded. Not covered. They just stopped in clean snow, as if the man had lifted straight up into the air. Across the road, the diner was dark again. The sign had missing letters. The windows were dusty. No tire tracks. No car in the ditch. No sign anyone had been there. I waited for Warren to come by that day. He didn't. Around noon, I drove to the old ranger station because I wanted to use the payphone I had noticed on the side of the building. It didn't work. The receiver had been cut off, and the cord hung like a black vine. The ranger station windows were boarded, but one board had a gap. I looked inside. It was mostly empty. A desk. A broken chair. Dusty cabinets. A wall map of the park. On the floor near the entrance sat a cardboard box full of old binders. I did not go in. I want to be clear about that. At that point, I was still trying to be reasonable. Looking through a gap was one thing. Breaking into an old ranger station was another. But as I turned to leave, I saw something taped to the inside of the station door. A yellow sheet of legal paper. From where I stood, I could only read the top line. Cabin 2 rules. Not Cabin 3. Cabin 2. Same handwriting. I drove back slowly. For the rest of the afternoon, I did not work much. I kept looking at the diner. I kept opening the logbook and looking at the folded ticket without unfolding it. I kept telling myself there had to be a local explanation. Maybe Warren had a son. Maybe this was an elaborate prank. Maybe some locals did this to off-season renters. That would have made sense, except for the footprints. That would have made sense, except for my name on the ticket. At 9, I did the radio check. Cabin 3, routine check. Static. Then, after maybe 5 seconds, a voice answered. Cabin 3, this is station. Copy. It was a man this time. Copy, I said, relieved before I could stop myself. Status? All good. The man said nothing for a moment. Then he said, Did you go to the diner, Aaron? My hand tightened on the microphone. He had used my first name, not my full name. Rule 3 said full name. I looked at the yellow paper on the table. No, I said. Did you let him in? No. Static moved under his breathing. Then he said, Good. Who is this? The radio popped. Station. That was not an answer. I should have stopped there. Instead, I asked, Are you with the Park Service? The radio hissed for a long time. Then the voice said, Not anymore. I let go of the microphone. I did not write that in the logbook. I wrote, 9 p.m. Cabin 3 routine check. Response unclear. That was the first time I lied in the log. It was not the last. The next incident happened 2 nights later. By then, I had convinced myself to stay. That probably sounds ridiculous. People always think they would leave immediately. They imagine fear makes decisions clean. It doesn't. Fear can trap you in place just as easily. I had paid for the month. I needed the money from the transcription contract. The road was getting worse from snow. And during the day, the cabin felt almost normal. That was the worst part. Sunlight made everything look explainable. The diner looked abandoned. The mine gate looked secure. The porch chairs sat still. The radio was just a radio. The rules were just a paper under a mug. By the fourth day, I had learned to work with my back to the wall. I checked the camera tablet too often. I kept the porch light on even before sunset. I stopped looking out the front window after dark. The audio files I was transcribing got stranger too, though I don't know if they actually changed or if I just started hearing them differently. One file was labeled NB Dispatch 1979 Winter Miscellaneous. Most of it was boring. Rangers calling in road conditions. A report of a downed tree. A lost snowshoer who was found before dark. Then came a section of static and a man whispering numbers. 7. 7. 7. Then a woman said very calmly, "Do not send anyone to the gate." Another voice answered, "He's already there." Then the tape cut out. I replayed that section 5 times. The transcript notes from the company said unintelligible, omit. I typed the words anyway. At 1:18 that morning, I heard the first knock under the floor. It came from beneath the kitchen table. One solid knock. I lifted my hands from the keyboard. Another knock. The sound was not like plumbing. It was not the hollow tick of settling wood. It was a knuckle against the underside of the floorboards. Knock. 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 I stood up so quickly the chair bumped the wall. The knocking continued. 5. 6. I remembered the rule. If someone knocks from under the floorboards, do not speak. Count 7 knocks. If there are more than 7, leave the room and shut the door until it stops. 7. Silence. I stood in the kitchen, holding my breath. The floor was still. The stove breathed heat. I waited for another knock. None came. After a while I laughed once. Not because it was funny. Because my body needed to push air out somehow. I sat back down. Then something under the table knocked 8 times very fast. Not 7. 8. I ran to the bedroom and shut the door. The knocking followed me across the kitchen floor. Not footsteps. Knocks. One under the sink. One by the stove. One beside the radio desk. One at the bedroom threshold. Then silence. I stood with my back against the bedroom door for almost an hour. At some point, I heard a voice under the floor. It was too muffled to understand at first. Then it said my father's name. Daniel. I closed my eyes. My father's name was Daniel Ward. He had never been to North Briar. He had never been within 1,000 miles of that cabin. The voice under the floor said it again. Daniel. Then, in my father's voice, it said, "Aaron, help me move this." That was something he used to say when I was a kid. Not special. Not dramatic. Just something ordinary. Help me move this. He said it when he was carrying lumber, when he was shifting furniture, when he was working on the car. I put my hands over my ears. The floor knocked once. Then it stopped. In the morning, there was a long scratch in the kitchen floor beneath the table. It looked like someone had dragged a nail through the wood from below. I took a picture with my phone even though there was no service. Then I packed my bags. I got as far as putting them in the car. The engine turned over twice, then clicked. Dead battery. I stared at the dashboard. The battery had been fine the day before. The temperature was cold, but not that cold. I had parked facing the road, like Warren had told me. I opened the hood and checked the terminals even though I barely knew what I was doing. Nothing looked wrong. When I closed the hood, I noticed the mine gate camera mounted on a tree near the road. It was pointed not at the mine, but at me. The little black lens reflected my face. I had the strange feeling that somewhere, on the cabin tablet, I was standing outside beside my car. I went back inside to check. The mine gate feed showed the chain fence. The porch feed showed the porch. The drive feed showed my car. I was not in the image. At the bottom of the tablet screen, a message blinked. Motion capture saved. I tapped it. The saved image opened. It showed me standing on the porch in my gray sweater, looking toward the diner. The timestamp was 3:07 a.m. I had been asleep at 3:07 a.m. At least I thought I had been. I looked down at myself. Same gray sweater. Same jeans. In the image, the porch light was off. The door behind me was open. My face was turned away, but I knew it was me. There was no question. The slope of the shoulders. The bad posture. The scar on the back of my left hand from a kitchen accident years earlier. Rule 5. If the trail camera shows you standing outside, stay inside. Do not look through the porch window. Keep a lamp on until the next camera update shows the porch empty. The image was from the saved captures, not the live feed. I told myself that mattered. I told myself the rule meant a live camera. Then the live porch feed updated. I was standing outside. Same gray sweater. Same jeans. Facing the door. The camera angle was high, mounted in the corner of the porch roof. I could see the top of my head. My shoulders. My hands hanging at my sides. Inside the cabin, I did not move. Outside the cabin, I stood at the door. The porch light was still on in the live image. That somehow made it worse. Because there was no shadow to hide behind. No dark shape. No blur. Just me. Waiting. I wanted to look at the porch window. Every part of me wanted to turn my head and look. It is hard to explain that impulse unless you have felt it. It wasn't curiosity. It was a need to make the two realities line up. If the camera said I was outside, then I wanted my own eyes to tell me it was wrong. But the rule was clear. Do not look through the porch window. I picked up the table lamp with both hands and carried it to the bedroom. The cord pulled tight from the wall. I plugged it in beside the bed and turned it on. Then I sat on the bed and stared at the camera tablet from across the room. 3 minutes passed. The feed updated. The porch was empty. The door was closed. The porch light was on. I waited another 3 minutes. Still empty. I did not leave the bedroom until sunrise. When I finally opened the front door, there were wet footprints on the porch. Bare feet. My feet. I know that because one of the prints showed the crooked second toe on my right foot from an old break. The footprints started at the top step, stood facing the door, then turned and walked to the edge of the porch. There they stopped. Not down the steps. Not back inside. Just stopped. I did not pack my bags again. I sat at the kitchen table until noon, watching the stove, the radio, and the front door. Around 1, Warren arrived. I heard his truck before I saw it. The engine sounded rough, grinding up the service road. He parked beside my Subaru and got out with jumper cables in one hand. "Battery trouble," he said. "How did you know?" He looked at my car. "Cold does that." I wanted to ask him why he had come. I wanted to ask how he knew exactly when to come. Instead, I said, "Something is wrong here." He looked tired. Not surprised. Just tired. "Something's wrong most places," he said. "People only notice when it gets quiet." I showed him the scratch on the floor. He leaned over and looked at it. "Old wood." I showed him the diner ticket. He did not touch it. His face changed, but only a little. The lines around his mouth went tight. "You let him in?" "No." "You answer him?" I said I could call the ranger station. Warren closed his eyes. What? That counts as an answer. He asked to use a phone? It doesn't matter what he asked. You didn't put that in the rules. I can't put everything in the rules. That made me angry. Maybe because I was scared. Maybe because he sounded like this was my fault. You rented me this place, I said. You left a paper with insane rules and no explanation. And you stayed. I had no response to that. Warren looked toward the diner. In daylight, it was just a dead building across the road. Your car will start after I jump it, he said. Then you can leave. You think I should? I think most folks should. Then why rent the cabin? He stared at the diner for a long time. Because empty cabins don't stay empty up here. Better to know who's inside. I thought about that sentence later. At the time, I just wanted him to say something clear. Warren, what is this? He looked back at me. The mine was here before the park. Before the road. Before the diner. Men dug into the mountain and found a wet vein of ore that made them rich for about 6 months. Then water started coming up from places water shouldn't come up from. Black water. Thick with iron. Men got sick. Men heard things under the boards. Men walked into the diner in the middle of the night and sat down in work clothes that had been buried 10 years. I waited. He rubbed his hands together slowly. My father worked rescue after the last collapse. He told me they heard knocking from behind rock for 9 days. On the 10th day, the knocking came from the rescue shack floor. That doesn't explain anything. No. He said it like explanation was not part of the deal. I want to leave, I said. Then leave before dark. He jumped my car. The Subaru started right away. For a moment, the relief was so strong I almost forgot everything else. I went inside and packed quickly. Laptop. Food. Clothes. The contract hard drive. I left the extra jugs of water and most of the firewood. Warren waited outside. As I carried the last bag to the car, he called my name. Not my full name. Just Aaron. I turned. He stood at the porch steps, looking at the open cabin door. You read the map yet? What map? The one in the stove drawer. No. Good. Why? If you don't need it, don't read it. I put the bag in my car. Then I asked, who writes the rules? Warren looked at me. I do now. Who wrote them before you? My father. And before him? He did not answer. I drove out 10 minutes later. At the ranger station, the road was blocked by a fallen pine. It had not been there that morning. The tree lay across both lanes, its top buried in the snowbank, its trunk thick as my waist. Fresh splinters showed where it had snapped. I got out and stared at it. There was no way around. Trees pressed close on one side. The old station ditch dropped steep on the other. I walked back to the car, sat behind the wheel, and started laughing. Again, not because it was funny. Because I had no other sound left. I drove back to the cabin. Warren was gone. His tire tracks led toward the ranger station and stopped at the end of the driveway. They did not continue to the road. I stood in the snow, looking at the place where his tracks ended. Then I looked across at the diner. The front door was open. Only a few inches. But open. I went inside the cabin and locked the door. That evening, I did not work. I kept the wood stove burning low. I ate crackers and peanut butter because cooking felt too loud. I turned every light on except the porch window lamp, which I kept ready on the sill in case the bulb went out. At 9, I almost skipped the radio check. Then I thought of Warren saying the radio check helped him know the line still worked. I keyed the microphone. Cabin 3, routine check. Static answered. I waited. Then a voice said, Cabin 3, copy. It was Warren. I almost cried from relief. Warren? The road is blocked. Static. I know. Where are you? Don't worry about that. Your tracks. Don't worry about tracks. I gripped the microphone. I'm leaving in the morning. Good. You need to come get me. I can't tonight. Why? The static deepened. Then Warren said, Because I came from the diner. I stopped breathing. I looked at the rule sheet. Rule 6. Do not let anyone inside who says they came from the diner. Warren's voice came through again. Aaron, listen carefully. If I come to the door, don't open it. You just said. I know what I said. Where are you? Not where I sound like I am. The radio crackled. His voice dropped lower. Did you answer anyone by name? No. Did you say your full name? No. Did you read names off the map? No. Then you're still alone. That sentence did not comfort me. It made the cabin feel much smaller. What happens if I'm not alone? Warren did not answer. Instead, he said, The rule about the map. You understand it? No. You won't until you do. That means nothing. It means don't go looking for names because you're scared of not knowing. That's how it starts. It gives you a list, and you try to find yourself on it. I looked at the stove drawer. The small brass key was still on the ring. Am I on it? The radio hissed. Then Warren said, Not if you don't read it. The line went dead. I sat there for a long time, holding the microphone. At 10:22, the kitchen tap turned on by itself. I watched the handle lift. Not jerk. Lift. Slowly, like someone invisible had pinched it between two fingers and turned it. Water poured into the sink. At first it was clear. Then gray. Then black. It came out thick and glossy, hitting the porcelain with a wet, heavy sound. It smelled like pennies and mud. Rule 7. If black water runs from any tap, lock the mind map in the stove drawer. Do not read any names on it until morning. The stove drawer was already locked. I had never opened it. I stood there, watching black water coil in the sink. The handle was still up. The sound of running water filled the cabin. I wanted to turn it off. That seemed like the obvious thing. Water was water. A tap was a tap. But I did not want to touch it. I took the key ring from the table, found the small brass key, and crouched by the stove drawer. The black water kept running behind me. The key fit. I turned it. The drawer opened about 2 inches on its own. Inside was a rolled paper tied with old string. The mind map. I did not pull it out. I pushed the drawer shut and locked it again. The tap clicked off. Silence returned so suddenly my ears rang. In the sink, there was no water. No stain. The porcelain was dry. I checked the drain with a flashlight. Nothing. I checked the pipes under the sink. Dry. I wrote in the logbook. 10:22 p.m. Black water. Drawer locked. Did not read map. My hand shook so badly the words slanted down the page. I slept in the chair that night with the lamp on and the radio beside me. Sometime before dawn, I woke to the sound of the diner sign buzzing. Red light leaked through the curtains. I did not look. A car door closed outside. Then footsteps crossed the road. They came up the porch steps. 3 polite knocks. A woman said, Aaron? My mother's voice. My mother was alive then. She lived in Boise. She had no idea where I was, except that I had told her I was going somewhere quiet for work. I had not given her the cabin address because there was no mail there. "Erin, honey, open the door." I sat frozen in the chair. "It's freezing out here," she said. That was exactly how she would say it. Not dramatic. Not crying. Irritated, worried, trying to be calm. "I brought your coat," she said. I looked at my coat hanging by the stove. The radio clicked once. The voice outside lowered. "Erin Caleb Ward." Full name. Not from the radio. From the porch. I almost answered. I cannot explain why. Hearing your full name in your mother's voice does something to you. It reaches past thought. It reaches the part of you that is still a child hearing your name called from another room. My mouth opened. The rules said radio. Do not answer the radio if the caller uses your full name. It did not say the door. That thought came so clear and quick that it did not feel like mine. It felt placed. I pressed my lips together until they hurt. My mother's voice sighed. Then it said, "You always make things harder than they need to be." That was not something she said. That helped. I stayed silent. The porch boards creaked as the thing outside leaned toward the little window. The curtain moved inward. Not much. Just enough to show pressure against the glass. Then the voice changed. It became Warren. "Good," it said. Then my father. "Help me move this." Then my own voice. "You're still alone." I did not move until sunrise. When I finally opened the door, a woman's coat lay folded on the porch. Blue wool. Missing one button. My mother had owned that coat when I was young. I had not seen it in 20 years. She donated it after the lining tore. I did not touch it. By noon it was gone. The fallen tree was gone too. I saw that from the drive camera first. The road beyond the old ranger station was visible again. No trunk. No branches. Just tire tracks and old snow. I should have left then. I know that. Believe me, I know. But Warren came back before I finished packing. He walked up the road from the direction of the ranger station, not in his truck, carrying a red gas can. His beard was iced over. His face looked gray. I watched him on the drive camera for almost 5 minutes before opening the door. He did not knock. He stood at the bottom of the steps and said, "I didn't come from the diner." I wanted to believe him. I also wanted to run past him to my car and never look back. "Prove it," I said. He nodded, like he had expected that. Then he recited the first rule backward. "Bulb the replaced to outside step not due. Window front the in lantern red the put, dark after out goes bulb the if. Sunrise until sundown from on light porch the keep." It sounded ridiculous and terrifying at the same time. "Why does that prove anything?" I asked. "Because what comes from over there repeats. It doesn't reverse." He pointed at the diner without looking at it. I let him in. That is another thing I regret, though I don't know if I had a choice by then. Warren sat at the kitchen table and warmed his hands around coffee he did not drink. He looked older inside the cabin. Smaller. I asked him what had happened to his truck. "Still at my place. I saw you drive away. You saw something drive away." He said this like it was weather. I could not stand it. "Stop doing that." He looked up. "Doing what?" "Acting like this is normal." "It is normal here." "No, it isn't." Warren looked around the kitchen. His cloudy eye caught the light and made it look blank. "You think normal means common. It doesn't. Normal means obeying whatever rules keep things in one piece." I sat across from him. "Why 7 rules?" Because that's how many worked. What about the rest? He tapped the logbook. That's what the log is. The way he said it made my stomach drop. I opened the logbook to the older entries. The strange notes I had seen before were scattered through pages of routine weather and maintenance, but now I looked more carefully. There were entries with names crossed out. Not scratched through once. Crossed and crossed until the paper almost tore. There were times written over and over. 2:17 a.m. 3:07 a.m. 12:06 a.m. Some entries had lines like, "Do not answer if voice comes from sink. Do not trust dog tracks. If you smell breakfast, check the porch light. If second moon visible in back slope camera, do not sleep." Then, many pages later, the formal 7 rules appeared in Warren's handwriting. The same 7 from the yellow paper, but with older wording. Messier. Changed over time. Rule 5 used to read, "If camera shows someone who looks like you outside, do not approach." Then later, "If camera shows you outside, stay inside." Then later, "Do not look through porch window until camera shows empty." I pointed to it. "Why did it change?" Warren looked at the entry. "Because someone approached when it didn't look like them." "What happened?" "They found out it did." He turned a few pages. "Rules get shorter after people die." Neither of us spoke for a while. The cabin was too warm. The stove had been burning all morning, and sweat gathered under my collar. Warren reached into his coat and took out a small black notebook. "This was my father's," he said. He placed it on the table but kept his hand on top of it. "I'm not giving it to you. I'm showing you because you're already in it farther than most. I don't want to be in anything. No one does." He opened the notebook to a page marked with a folded receipt. The writing inside was cramped and old. Warren read aloud, "Not everything, just pieces. Don't write a man's whole name after dark." He paused. "Don't let the mountain hear a person claim himself." Another pause. "If a person sees his own place waiting, he will try to stand in it." I thought of the camera image. Me on the porch. The empty place where my footprints stopped. Warren closed the notebook. "The rules aren't fences," he said. "They're habits. That's all. You repeat them until your body stops before your mind catches up." "Why the mine?" "It's not the mine." "You said." "I said men dug there. I didn't say they made what was down there." He looked toward the stove drawer. "You opened that?" "Only to lock it." "Good. What's on the map?" "Entrances. Shafts. Cabins. Old foundations. Places where it can get near the surface." "And names?" "Yes." "Whose names?" "The ones it knows." That was when the rule changed meaning for me. Until then, I thought the map was dangerous because it had dead men's names on it. Miners. Rangers. Missing hikers. People from the past. But Warren was saying something else. He was saying the danger was not that the map showed who was dead. The danger was that the map showed who had been noticed. And if you read your own name, you confirmed it. You helped it find the right shape. I asked Warren if my name was on it. He did not answer. That was answer enough. The rest of that day was almost normal. That sounds impossible, but it was true. Warren stayed until late afternoon. He changed the porch bulb. He checked the generator. He looked at my car and said it would run. He reset the camera receiver. He made soup from cans in the cupboard and made me eat some. We did ordinary things because there was nothing else to do. That false normality was worse than the fear. A man had spoken with my dead father's voice under the floor. My mother's old coat had appeared on the porch. Something wearing my shape had stood outside the door. And there I was, eating soup from a chipped bowl while an old man complained about the generator belt. Before sunset, Warren stood to leave. "You're leaving with me," I said. "No." "Why not?" "Because I have cabin 2. "What does that mean?" "It means if cabin 2 goes empty tonight, cabin 3 won't matter." I stared at him. "There are other cabins?" "Not anymore." "Warren." He put on his gloves. "There used to be 6 rentals along this road. 1 diner. 1 ranger station. 1 mine office. The park tore most of it down. Didn't help. Where is cabin 2? He pointed east, into the trees behind the diner. "You can't see it from here." "Who's there?" He looked at me for a long moment. Then he said, "Nobody you should answer." At the door, he turned back. "Tonight, don't do the radio check." "But you said—" "I know what I said. Tonight don't." "Why?" "Because if it asks for you, it may sound like me." He stepped outside and shut the door. I watched him walk down the steps and across the driveway. He did not go toward the ranger station. He walked into the trees east of the diner, toward a cabin I had never seen. I locked the door. Then I locked it again, even though that did nothing. The night that followed was the longest night of my life. I did not do the 9 o'clock radio check. At 9 exactly, the radio turned itself on. The dial light glowed green. Static filled the kitchen. I stood across the room, holding the yellow rule sheet like it could protect me. A voice said, "Cabin 3, routine check." It was my voice. Not similar. Mine. Flat, tired, a little nasal from the cold. "Cabin 3, routine check," it repeated. I did not answer. The radio clicked. Then Warren's voice said, "Aaron, pick up." I did not move. "Road's clear. Need you to start now." I looked at the drive camera. My car sat under the porch light glow. Snow on the windshield. No one around it. Warren's voice said, "Do not stay in that cabin tonight." I almost believed it. Then it added, "This is Warren Bell calling Aaron Caleb Ward." Full name. Rule 3. Do not answer the radio if the caller uses your full name. My hands went numb. I picked up the logbook and wrote, 9:02 p.m. Wrong call. Used full name. Then I turned the radio volume down. The knob resisted, like something on the other side was holding it. I forced it left until the static dropped to a whisper. 10 minutes. That was all the rule said. Write the time. Turn the volume down. Wait 10 minutes. The radio kept whispering. At first, I could not make out words. Then I heard the old interview audio I had been transcribing. The Ranger from 1984. Lowell Pierce. His thin voice came through the radio saying, "We don't put names on the board after dark." Then the woman from the 1979 dispatch tape. "Do not send anyone to the gate." Then my father. "Aaron, help me move this." Then me. "You're still alone." The 10 minutes took forever. When they passed, I turned the volume off completely. The radio light stayed on. At 10:14, the chain started dragging. It came from outside, far down the mine road. Metal over gravel. Slow. Heavy. Drag. Stop. Drag. Stop. Rule 2. The mine road gate stays chained. If you hear chain dragging after dark, check the gate camera or the kitchen window only. Do not go to the gate. I went to the tablet. The mine gate camera showed the fence. The chain hung in place. The yellow warning sign moved slightly in the wind. No one was there. The sound continued. Drag. Stop. Drag. Stop. I looked at the kitchen window. The curtains were closed. The rules said I could check the kitchen window, not the porch window. The kitchen window faced the side yard and the old service road beyond the trees. I crossed the room slowly and lifted the curtain with 2 fingers. At first, I saw only my own reflection. Then the yard. Then the black line of the mine road. Something was moving there. Not a person. Not an animal. A length of chain slid along the snow by itself, inching forward like a snake. Behind it, the gate stood open. That was impossible because the camera still showed the gate closed. The chain dragged closer. I let the curtain fall. The camera feed updated. Gate closed. No movement. The chain sound was now outside the cabin wall. Drag. Stop. Drag. Stop. Then it passed under the floor. I felt it through my shoes. Metal scraping beneath the boards. The radio light blinked. The stove drawer rattled. I stepped back from it. The chain stopped beneath the kitchen table. Then came the knocks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I did not move. I did not speak. 8. I ran to the bedroom and slammed the door. This time, I heard more than knocking. I heard men under the cabin. Many men. Boots in water. Tools striking rock. Coughing. Someone crying quietly. Someone saying, "Keep the line tight." Someone else saying, "That isn't the way out." The bedroom floor felt cold through my socks. A voice below me said, "He's above us." Another said, "Which one?" Then my own voice answered from under the floor. "The one who won't say his name." I pressed both hands over my mouth. For hours, the cabin worked around me. That is the only way I can describe it. Not haunted. Not attacked. Worked. Like a machine. The radio clicked on and off. The stove drawer rattled. Water ran in the bathroom, then stopped. The porch boards creaked under slow weight. The diner sign buzzed across the road. The camera tablet updated every 3 minutes with a soft electronic chime. I stayed in the bedroom with the lamp on. At some point, I fell asleep sitting against the wall. I woke at 2:17. I know because every clock in the cabin had stopped at 2:17. The battery clock above the sink. The stove clock. My laptop clock. Even my watch. They all showed 2:17. The bedroom door was open. I did not remember opening it. The lamp was off. The cabin was blue with moonlight. From the kitchen came the sound of pencil on paper. Slow. Deliberate. I sat there, unable to move, listening to someone write in the logbook. After a minute, the writing stopped. The pencil rolled across the table. Then the bedroom door began to close. Not slam. Close. Slowly. I reached out and stopped it with my foot. I don't know why I did that. Maybe panic. Maybe I couldn't stand being shut in by something else. The door pressed against my foot with steady pressure. Not hard at first. Then harder. My ankle bent. Pain shot up my leg. I pulled my foot back. The door closed. On the other side, in my own voice, someone whispered, "Good." I stayed awake until morning. When the clock started again, they all jumped from 2:17 to 6:42 at the same time. The cabin was normal. That was the part that broke something in me. The kitchen was clean. The stove was low but burning. The radio was off. No black water. No chain. No voices. The logbook sat open on the table. One new entry had been written beneath mine. The handwriting was mine, but I had not written it. 2:17 a.m. Aaron Caleb Ward present. Cabin 3 occupied. Gate open below. I tore the page out. Then I froze. Because the page underneath had the same entry. Same words. Same handwriting. I turned to the next page. Same entry. And the next. 2:17 a.m. Aaron Caleb Ward present. Cabin 3 occupied. Gate open below. Every remaining page in the logbook had been filled with it. Hundreds of times. I threw the book across the room. It hit the wall and fell open. The entry on the exposed page was different. Do the check. That was all it said. I left the cabin without my bags. The air outside was hard and bright. My car started on the first try. I reversed too fast and almost slid into the woodpile. The road to the ranger station was clear. No fallen tree. No tracks except mine and one set of older tire marks. I drove past the ranger station. That was when I saw Warren. He was standing in front of it, facing the road. I hit the brakes. He did not wave. He did not move. His coat was open. His beard hung wet. His face was pale and slack. I rolled the window down only a few inches. Warren? He looked at me. His good eye was gone. Not injured. Not bloody. Just gone, like the socket had always been empty. He said, "Did I come to your door?" "No." "Did I come inside?" I did not answer right away. His mouth tightened. "Aaron, did I come inside?" Yesterday's soup. The coffee he did not drink. The notebook. The backwards rule. I felt the world tilt a little. "Yes," I said. Warren closed his eye. The wind moved around the ranger station. When he opened it again, he looked more tired than afraid. "I told you not to let anyone in from the diner. You said you didn't come from the diner." "I didn't." "But it did." He nodded. "I wanted to be sick." "How was I supposed to know?" "You weren't." That was the cruelest thing he said to me. Not because he meant it that way, but because it was honest. The thing that came in looking like Warren had followed the rules better than I had. It reversed the rule to prove itself. It gave me soup. It told me just enough truth to make the rest of the night worse. Real Warren looked past my car toward the cabin road. "You need to finish the morning." "What does that mean?" "The map." "No." Black water ran. I locked the drawer. "Did you read the names?" "No." "Then you need to burn the map." "That wasn't in the rules." "No. It comes after." I laughed once. "You keep leaving parts out." "Because most people don't get to the parts." He started coughing. Deep, wet coughs that bent him forward. When he straightened, there was black fluid on his lips. I backed away without meaning to. He wiped his mouth with his sleeve. "Listen to me," he said. "It knows your name now, but it may not know where to keep it." "What does that mean?" "It needs you to claim a place." "Cabin, mine, diner, road." "One of them." "I'm leaving." "Then don't stop where it asks." He walked to my window and held out his hand. In his palm was the small brass key. I looked down. My key ring still hung from the ignition. The brass key was on it. I looked back at his palm. Same key. "You have to choose which one is real," Warren said. I did not take it. He smiled faintly. "Good." Then he dropped the key in the snow and stepped back. "Go burn the map. Don't read names. Don't answer the radio. Don't look at the porch camera. If you hear me call, you keep walking. I'm not going back." He looked at me with that empty socket and tired eye. Then it'll come with you unfinished. I drove past him. I made it about a mile before the road curved and brought me back to the cabin. I don't mean I got turned around. I mean the road made one normal bend through the trees, and the cabin appeared ahead of me, porch light glowing in daylight, diner across the road, my own tire tracks leading into the driveway. I stopped the car. Behind me, the road stretched straight back toward the ranger station. Ahead, the cabin waited. I tried again. Same thing. No matter which way I drove, the road returned me to cabin 3. After the 4th loop, I parked and sat with the engine running until the gas light came on. Then I got out. I had to go back inside. There are choices that do not feel like choices when you are living them. They feel like narrow hallways. You can stand still, or you can move forward. Standing still is also a choice. I took the key ring and walked up the steps. The porch was clean. No footprints. No coat. No marks. The front door was unlocked. Inside, the cabin was warm. The logbook sat closed on the table. The radio was on. A voice said very softly, "Cabin 3, routine check." I ignored it. I went straight to the stove drawer. The brass key shook in my hand so badly I scraped the lock twice before getting it in. The drawer opened. The map was heavier than I expected. Old oilcloth, rolled tight and tied with black string. I carried it to the sink. Not the table. I didn't want to spread it out. I didn't want to see it. I only needed to burn it. The stove door creaked open. Inside, the coals glowed low and red. The radio said, "Aaron Caleb Ward." I froze. Full name. Not a call sign. Not Warren. Not my mother. Just my full name, spoken by a stranger with my voice behind it. The rule came back to me. Do not answer the radio if the caller uses your full name. I did not answer. I untied the string without looking down. The map loosened in my hands. A corner fell open. I saw lines. Just lines. Black ink tunnels. Cabin marks. The road. The diner. The old ranger station. I closed my eyes and shoved the map into the stove. Paper caught fire slowly at first, then all at once. The oilcloth curled and blackened. Smoke pushed into the room, thick and bitter. Something knocked under the floor. Once. Twice. 3 times. I closed the stove door. The knocking became a pounding. Not under one spot now. Everywhere. The whole floor shook. The sink tap turned on and black water poured out. The diner sign buzzed red through the curtains. The radio said my name again. Then my mother said it. Then my father. Then Warren. Then me. The stove door rattled. I backed away, coughing from the smoke. The map burned behind the glass, and as it burned, I heard voices rising from inside the stove. Not screaming. Talking. Many voices, layered together, all calm, all saying names. I put my hands over my ears, but I still heard them. Lowell Pierce. Mara Bell. Thomas Greeley. Cabin 2. Cabin 5. Briar Grill. Daniel Ward. That one broke through me. My father's name. I opened my eyes. The stove glass had gone black. A name appeared in the soot from the inside, written by a finger I could not see. Daniel Ward. Below it, another name began forming. Aaron. I grabbed the fire poker and struck the stove door. Once. Twice. The glass cracked but did not break. The hand in the soot kept writing. Aaron Caleb. The front door opened behind me. Cold air entered the cabin. I turned. I was standing on the porch. Not a double. Not a shadow. Me. gray sweater. Jeans. Scarred left hand. He stood in the open doorway, looking in. His face was calm and empty. Behind him, across the road, the Briar Grill sign glowed red. The diner door was open. Inside, booths waited under yellow light. My other self lifted one hand. Not waving. Pointing. At the radio. The radio microphone hung off its hook. The line was open. From the speaker came Warren's voice, strained and distant. "Do not see your name." I looked at the stove. The soot hand had almost finished writing. Aaron Caleb Ward. The last letter had not formed. Not yet. I understood then, or thought I did. The rule about the radio was never only about the radio. The rule about the map was never only about the map. The names mattered because saying them, reading them, hearing them, writing them, all did something. They made a shape more complete. They tied a person to a place. The thing at the door did not need to kill me. It needed me to agree. It needed one small ordinary act. Answer the radio. Confirm the order. Open the door. Read the name. Say yes. Say, "That is me." The microphone swung gently. Warren's voice came again. "Walk out the back." The thing in the doorway smiled. It had my face, but the smile was not mine. The back door was in the kitchen, beside the pantry. I had used it only once to bring in wood from the side stack. It opened toward the back slope, away from the road and diner. I stepped toward it. The thing in the front doorway stepped into the cabin. Not across the threshold. Just to it. 1 foot on the porch. 1 foot inside. The stove glass cracked again. The last letter on my name began to curve. I ran. Not to the front. Not to the radio. To the back door. I threw the bolt and shoved it open. Cold air hit me. The back slope camera flashed from a tree. I remembered Rule 5 too late. If the trail camera shows you standing outside, stay inside. But I was already outside. The snow behind the cabin was deeper than I expected. It came up over my boots. I stumbled downhill through trees, branches hitting my face, breath tearing in my chest. No monster chased me. That almost made it worse. The cabin behind me stayed quiet. The only sound was the diner sign buzzing on the other side of the road and the steady camera chime from inside the cabin every 3 minutes. I reached the old mine road by accident. The gate was open. The chain lay in the snow. Beyond it, the mine entrance gaped black between rock walls. I did not go in. I need you to understand that. I did not go into the mine. I turned away from it and followed the road downhill until I found the ranger station. From there, I kept walking until I reached the main park road after sunrise. A snowplow driver found me around 8. He said I was standing in the middle of the road without a coat, holding a burned piece of paper in my hand. I don't remember taking it. It was a corner of the mine map. No names on it. Just one small drawing of cabin 3 and a line underneath it. Gate open below. The plow driver took me to Ashford. There was cell service there. I called my mother first. She answered on the second ring. I cried when I heard her voice. I asked if she still had her old blue coat. She thought I meant the one with the missing button. She said no, she donated that coat years ago. Then I called the park office. They connected me to a ranger named Ellis, who listened quietly while I gave a version of the story that made me sound only half insane. Cabin. Mine. Road blocked. Strange radio calls. A man named Warren Bell. When I said Warren's name, Ranger Ellis went quiet. Then he asked me to repeat it. I did. He put me on hold. When he came back, His voice had changed. He told me Warren Bell had owned property near the old Iron Gate mine, but he had died in 2011. I said that was not possible. Ellis did not argue. He said the cabin road had been closed to public access for years after repeated vandalism and safety issues. He said there were no legal rentals in that area anymore. He said the Briar Grill had been demolished in 1998. I told him I had been there. He asked if I needed medical attention. I hung up. Later, when I had calmed down enough to search online, I found old forum posts about the area. Hikers talking about abandoned buildings. A few blurry photos from before the access road closed. There was a diner in some of them, yes. A cabin too. A ranger station. But the dates were wrong. The photos were old. The cabin in the photos looked half collapsed. The diner roof had caved in. The ranger station was covered in graffiti. Nothing like what I had seen. I searched Warren Bell. I found an obituary. White beard. One cloudy eye. Former park maintenance supervisor. Survived by no children. Preceded in death by his father, Harold Bell, ranger and mine rescue volunteer. I closed the laptop. For 2 weeks, I stayed with my mother. I told her I had gotten sick at the cabin. Carbon monoxide, maybe. Stress. Exhaustion. She believed what she could. I wanted to believe it too. That would have been easier. Carbon monoxide can cause confusion, hallucinations, lost time. It can make impossible things feel real. But carbon monoxide does not write your name in a logbook. It does not leave your mother's old coat on a porch. It does not put black water in a sink and then leave it dry. It does not call you on a radio that isn't plugged in. I tried to go back to work. For a while, I could not transcribe anything. Every bit of background static made me feel cold. Every time someone on a recording said a name, I had to stop. Eventually, I took smaller jobs. Clear audio only. No ranger calls. No oral histories. No interviews about mines. I moved apartments. I stopped using my full name online. That sounds paranoid, I know. I don't care. 3 months after I left North Briar, I received a padded envelope with no return address. Inside was the yellow rule sheet. The same one from the cabin table. The creases were the same. The coffee stain in the corner was the same. My fingerprints were probably still on it. But the rules had changed. There were 8 now. The first 7 were exactly as I remembered. The 8th was written at the bottom in my handwriting. 8. If Aaron comes back after sunrise, do not let him in. I burned the paper in my kitchen sink. The smoke smelled like old pennies. I didn't tell anyone. After that, nothing happened for almost a year. That is the part people don't understand about things like this. They expect constant haunting. Doors slamming. Shadows. Nightmares every night. It wasn't like that. Life went on. I bought groceries. Paid bills. Worked. Called my mother. Lied to friends about why I didn't like cabins anymore. Sometimes I would wake up at 2:17 and lie still until the clock changed. Sometimes I thought I heard chain dragging in the pipes. Sometimes restaurant signs flickered when I passed them, and I would cross the street without looking back. But nothing clear happened. Nothing I could prove. Then, last week, I got an email from a man named Chris Madsen. The subject line was, "Question about Warren's cabin." I almost deleted it. I should have deleted it. The message was short. He said he had found my name in an old guest log at a cabin near North Briar and wanted to know if I had stayed there before. He said he was renting it for 2 weeks to get away and finish writing. He said the owner had left some weird rules on the table, and one of them mentioned me. He attached a photo. I did not open it for almost an hour. When I finally did, I saw the kitchen table. The chipped mug. The yellow legal paper. The black stove in the corner. The photo was a little blurry, but I could read the first rule. Keep the porch light on from sundown until sunrise. I could also see the edge of the logbook. Open on the table. On the page, in my handwriting, one line had been written over and over. Aaron Caleb Ward present. Cabin 3 occupied. Gate open below. I replied to Chris. I told him to leave before dark. I told him not to answer the radio. I told him not to read any names. The email bounced back. Address not found. I tried again. Same result. That night, at exactly 9 o'clock, my laptop speakers crackled with static. I was in my apartment. No radio. No cabin. No mine. No diner. Just my desk, my lamp, my half-finished work, and traffic outside my window. A voice came through the speakers. My voice. Calm. Tired. Cabin 3, routine check. I unplugged the laptop. The voice continued for another second. Then stopped. I have not turned that laptop on since. I am writing this from a library computer under a name that is not mine. Maybe that matters. Maybe it doesn't. I keep thinking about what Warren said. The rules are habits. You repeat them until your body stops before your mind catches up. So I do that now. I don't answer when someone uses my full name. I don't look through windows when I know something is waiting outside. I don't trust empty places just because they are quiet. And every night, before I sleep, I check the street below my apartment. There is a diner on the corner. It is open 24 hours. A normal place. Bright windows. Delivery drivers. College kids. Old men drinking coffee. I used to like seeing it there. Now, sometimes, after midnight, the sign flickers. And when it does, I can see someone sitting in the booth nearest the window. He wears my gray sweater. He keeps his hands folded on the table. He does not wave. He does not smile. He just waits there under the red sign, watching my window like he knows I will come down eventually. Last night, there was a paper ticket slipped under my apartment door. 1 black coffee. 2 eggs. Toast burned dark. Name, Aaron Ward. Time, 12:06 a.m. This morning, I found bare footprints in the hallway carpet. They stopped outside my door. And the porch light was on.